Hi, Deb.
Hello, how are you?
So you have spent a lot of your work paying attention to how the nervous system affects us, how we respond to situations. You've done that within the framework of therapy. Now let's pay attention to how this kind of learning could inspire us in the way we lead our lives.
Yes, it's a thank you for this invitation to try and translate my clinical language into everyday, ordinary, user-friendly language for what I've begun to start calling just curious human beings. Because in my trainings recently, I've had many people come who they just want to know about their nervous system, just want to kind of figure out what is this thing that's helping me navigate my life. So what I guess I would say in the beginning is that the nervous system is the foundation for all of us. It's where all of our experience begins, and so I think it's helpful for everyone to understand this system that's driving them in certain ways through their daily lives. It's not just something that we want to pay attention to in therapy. It's not and actually in the therapy that I do, what I'm trying to do is help people become active operators of their own nervous systems. So I think that's really what I'm hoping is that everybody will know enough about their own nervous system and how it works, so that they can then be able to befriend it and engage with it in new ways.
Yeah, yeah. And so maybe an entry point there is to say that the nervous system is going to be responding very differently when we're in a situation where we're safe versus when there is a sense of threat.
Yes, and that perception of safety then allows us to do what you and I are doing right now, to communicate, to connect, even though it's across a screen, to share this experience together and be in it together. And then a sense of danger moves us into a state of protection, and we either feel some anxiety, or we feel some anger. We want to get big and stand our ground and fight back, or we're ready to run away and get out of here. Or the other response that this brilliantly creative biology brings to us is this place of just giving up, of sort of I don't care, give up, whatever sort of place. So yes, depending on how we're perceiving the world at any moment, our nervous system is going to bring one of those energies to life inside us. So, those are sort of the three building blocks of our nervous system, right? We've got that safe one, and then the one that energizes, and the one that collapses.
Yeah, yeah. And so what we're talking about specifically at this point is not just one nervous system that's a monolith, but actually different circuits that
Yes,
respond given the nature of the situation.
exactly. Yes, and I like that way of saying it, that there are these circuits that respond. And we could think that, given the nature of the situation, is if we look at that through the lens of our nervous system, the nervous system is listening, so to speak, to the environment and to other people, and even to what's happening inside our own body, and then is making a choice around those three circuits. And sometimes that choice is not based on what is actually happening in this moment. It's based on prior experience, or something that feels familiar to a prior experience. So we want to remember that the nervous system takes in all this information and then creates these patterns, and then the patterns come to life. So part of what we do as humans, as we go through life, is try to bring some awareness to those patterns, so that we can then decide, is that pattern serving me in this moment?
Yeah, yeah. And so interesting when you talk about patterns, earlier talked about something of this nervous system choosing a pattern. So what's happening is this is emphatically not a cognitive choice or even a conscious choice. This is something that reacts. It's a reaction.
Right. Yes. So that wonderful cognitive thinking part of your brain does not come along for the ride with the nervous system, right? So the nervous system is acting below the level of the brain and out of our awareness, it, in micro moment to micro moment, making these subtle changes, and then when needed, making a big change. So, at the moment, I'm feeling a little more energized as we talk. And then when you talk, I get a little quiet so I can listen. And my nervous system's doing all that for me. I don't have to decide to do that. My nervous system's helping me do that. And if something really big happened in this space that I'm sitting in, or on your end that I noticed, my nervous system would then make a big response to that. So yeah,
as you're talking, I've just noticed the gestures, and you have some gestures that are closing in, and you just had a gesture that expansion. So it's interesting that what we're relating is that the nervous system is not just an abstraction, is not just some kind of computer language that's going directions, but it's related to the way our body itself is manifesting this.
Yes, absolutely. So, if we think about, a sudden shock or a sudden unpredictable something happen, we might, do this sort of, or we might do this collapse, this, either one is available to our nervous system. And again, we don't get to choose which we do, right? The nervous system makes the choice for us. So sometimes we will fight or run away, and other times we will do that, that sort of collapse, disappear, become invisible thing, right?
And I want to highlight again something that, and as you're talking about this, your whole body is expressing it. And so, for instance, at some point when you were talking about the surprise, you had the body language, including the abdomen, the eyes opening up, the torso coming up,
Right.
And so it's a whole organism response.
Exactly. And when you think about the coming up like that, and the shoulders go up, the eyes open, that is that part, that circuit in your nervous system that mobilizes you in that way and gets you ready. It's a system of action taking, and you can feel it when it happens. And then the other one, the system of disappearing. And even as I talk about it, you can feel it, right? And I can feel the bit of collapse, and I get quiet, and so even
it's visible
talking about them
your
brings it
body
alive.
posture, in the tone of your voice, and so you're demonstrating. Then we're talking about this is that whole body, whole organism reaction to the event, and having the energy to face the event, either in fighting or running away, or the defeat and the collapse that comes with it.
Right, which is also a very creative biological response. Right? We don't preference one of those over the other, so we want to make sure we say that the fight or flight or the collapse, one is not better than the other, they're just different, and the nervous system makes the choice, so to speak, about the one that it feels is going to serve our survival in this moment.
Yeah. So this is not something that we look at with a theater critic and saying, you played well, or a sports reviewer, but this is,
right.
This is what we do.
That. No, right. Yes. Yeah, no. And that's our brain that wants to do that, right? We humans want to make meaning and find motivation and all of that, which is a lovely thing, lovely human thing to be able to do. However, when you're talking about the nervous system is simply taking an action in order to make sure you survive so that you can then make another choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the two systems that are involved in
Mhm.
threat. You know, there's that fight flight system that mobilizes energy, and when that doesn't work, you know, the collapse. Um, there's also, of course, part of the nervous system when we are either, you know, or safe enough so
Yeah,
that
safe.
these are challenges as opposed to threats.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, it's a great way to put it. And that's this lovely social engagement system that comes online that allows us to be connected and talk together and feel as if we're seeing and hearing and being with each other. That system also allows us to be with ourselves in that way, to really feel embodied and connected and safely here. And it allows us to move through the world, so connect with the world in that way and connect with spirit. So that third circuit, the one of connection and safety, brings real richness to our everyday experience.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is something that's possible when there is some degree of safety. And as you point out, you know, social engagement, connection with others, connection with the challenges in the world, connection with oneself.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's this lovely circuit of safety. You know, we even call it the safety circuit. Um, is the newest part of our human nervous system, and so from I really believe that the nervous system has this inherent longing to be there, and I call it it's our home, it's our nervous system home in
Mm,
this place of safety and connection. And then we get pulled away from our home, but when you think about it as home, your nervous system knows how to find the way back home. So I like us to understand that there's an inherent wisdom inside. So even when we get pulled to the system of mobilization or the system of collapse, there's a wisdom in that for the nervous system. And then when the challenge is over or the threat is resolved, the nervous system knows how to find its way back to safety and connection.
yeah, yeah. So this is certainly not a recommendation to try and lead our lives from some preconceived notion of what we should be, but you know, navigating, recognizing the wisdom of the nervous system and dancing with it, adapting to it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lovely way. Yes, that dancing with it's nice. I call it befriending. We befriend our nervous system. And the lovely thing about making a friend is that you don't just make a friend in one moment, right? You make a friend, you begin a friendship, you work at that friendship, you deepen the friendship, you stay in that friendship. And that's really what we need to do with our nervous system. We don't
Mhm.
just say, oh, that's how it works, and then okay. We really go be with it, befriend it, know that it's in a dance with us. It's a lovely way to think about it. And then
Mm.
at the moment, your nervous system and my nervous system are dancing together. So that's that connection that happens.
Mhm. And so, with that concept of befriending the nervous system, comes the idea of actually then bringing our curiosity to noticing how it works, to pay attention to it, and to use these, these three circuits that we talked about to be more curious about how they manifest in our lives, so that we can know our friend better.
Know our friend better. Yes, exactly. And I love what you said, curiosity, to be curious about, because curiosity is only available to us if we have a bit of that safety and connection alive in our system. If some of that energy is active in our system, then we can be curious. But when we get pulled into that mobilized fight or flight or the shutdown collapse, we also lose access to curiosity. So it's important to begin to build these pathways to friendship when we can feel enough safety and connection to bring curiosity to, what happens when I go to this fight or flight place? What are some of the things that trigger that? What happens when I go into that collapse? That's interesting. We can be interested and curious when we go to and be with and don't get hijacked by one of those states.
Yeah. So curiosity is a specific attribute of that, mindful social engagement circuit. And
Yes.
but there is also some kind of a bidirectional effect to the extent that we're able to start having some curiosity, then we can in a way grow the
Yeah.
mindful part and not drown into the reactivity or the collapse, but
Yeah.
have a little bit more of a handle on it.
Yeah, I like how you put that as well. I call it, having an anchor in that place of
Mm-hmm.
safety and connection and curiosity. And as long as we know that we're anchored there or we're tethered to that place, we can then go be with the other places because we have this way. We know the pathway home. We're either connected to it. I sometimes imagine a true, rope that is
Yeah.
anchored in that place, and then I go wander off and find my way home. Somebody said it's like Hansel and Gretel leaving breadcrumbs. I like that. I like the rope. I'm tying a rope and then I'm going off and I'm coming back. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that sense, and so what I like about the idea of the tether, or like the anchor, is that you know that there is a place that is stable, and that you have. It's not even an imaginary connection. You have that rope tying you there. So at any time you can feel it, and if you really need, so even feeling it reminds you that it
Yeah.
exists.
Exactly. And bringing it alive in imagery is really a helpful thing, because once you have this image of, oh, there's the rope, and give it color, give it form, give it texture, all of that, then when you feel, oh, I'm losing my grip or I'm being pulled into that place of drowning in one of those other two states, you go, oh, but I have a rope. And you bring it alive, and your system responds by reminding you of some of that energy, which is really helpful.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that image. So that sense of, we're in that area of, we're use the circumstances of everyday life to explore, to befriend, the nervous system, our friend, in its different states. And so at times we're going to be pulled into, the more difficult part, into the fight flight, into the collapse. But at any time, remembering that we have that rope attached and tugging it, and being able to pull back a little more, and we're simply just remembering we have that.
Right. And as soon as we remember we have it, then a little bit more of it comes alive. It's a fascinating sort of loop that we start doing. We remember we have it, and then we have a little more, and then we have a little more and a little more, and and once you've done that a few times, your system begins to remember on its own in a stronger way. So the more you bring that image to life and use it, the stronger that pathway becomes. And so then I find that, oh, I don't need to remember so often. My system just remembers it's attached to that, and I can go have more capacity to be curious about those other states.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so the other states, is exploring these. Maybe does it help to again redescribe what the physical experience of each of these states is?
Sure. Yeah. So let's start with the physical experience, or the story that comes from each of these states, because it's not only your physiology, but then your brain makes a story up that is coming from that state. So, let's start with that place of safety and connection, where we're going to tie our rope and feel what that's like in the body. And it's sort of a sense of organization, of integration, of feeling in my body, of feeling my place in the world. Breath is easy, heart rate's fairly regulated. My thoughts are ones about being safe in the world, or safe enough to move through the world. I can be curious I have I have access to lots of options and problem solving and playfulness and all of those things. So this place of being anchored in safety and connection
Yeah.
is really a place of opportunity. And the
Yeah.
story is one of safety and connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if we,
So
remember where,
stay there a
yeah,
little
go ahead.
with that
Yeah.
piece, because as you're describing it this way, the image that comes to mind is the image of a little kid, holding the parent's hand. And we talked about the being connected to the anchor and that rope of connection to the anchor, and so the image of the kid holding the parent's hand and goes with the idea of the anchor is related to the notion of connection, and connection and safety go hand in hand.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, and as with the little kid in the parent's hand, they go away and come back and go away and come back, and they find their way back to the parent in the hand, which is that same sense of we find our way back to this place for ourselves. So, yeah. So if we remember that we can always find our way back there, and that rope is there for us, and we move into some of that energy of fight and flight, we can begin to feel what that feels like in the body. And you'll feel, usually if there's some energy rising, there's some sort of this that goes on, and there's a flood of energy. It feels too much. It's hard to sit still. It's hard to stay focused. It's hard to think straight, because once you've left that place of safety and connection and gone to this place of fight flight, your brain is slowing down, shutting down, not working in a way to support you. You can't problem solve in this place. You can simply act or react probably more in this place. And the story here is one of danger. And so rather than connection, which is lovely part of the first state we were talking about, in this state, everybody seems to be dangerous to me. And so you're no longer my friend. You're now in the category of enemy or dangerous or unfriendly. And so the story is one of danger, and the world being a place that I have to fight my way through, is not accepting, is not an easy place to be. So you can really feel that when we talk about it. And then that third state, the state of disappearing or collapsing, has a very different physical manifestation. It's that place of like, there's not enough energy in my system. When I collapse, I don't have the energy to connect. So whereas in the first one, I like being with you, and in the second one, you feel dangerous to me, in this third state, you don't exist. Right? I'm just floating on my own in the world, and you don't exist, and I can't find my way, and I'm lost and abandoned. And you can feel that in your body, that sort of emptiness, and you can feel the story is one of being abandoned and lost.
Yeah. And so to put maybe the concept of connection or engagement in the first one, obviously there is a connection, and the connection is positive, and the connection is, there's a sense of the other is support. In the second one, the connection is other is a threat, but there's still energy because there is engagement. So there is a threat, but there is the possibility to do something about it, either overcoming it or running away. And when that hasn't worked, then all is lost. And then there is no more connection, because at that point, you're lost.
Right. Yes. That's a great way to put it. All is lost. Yeah. You can feel, though, when you say those words, can't you feel that coming alive in your body?
Yeah.
All is lost.
It's almost impossible to say it without feeling a sense of despair.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's come back to that first place, the place of safety and connection, and what would you say here to bring that alive? What would be your statement?
So I find it easier to find the words from the parent figure to say it's going to be all right.
It'll be all right. Nice.
So that sense of voicing the reassurance. So that, in other words, it's not that there's no threat, but there is a presence of reassurance.
Right. We have resources. in
Mm-hmm.
order to deal with whatever comes along. So it'll be okay. I like that. You know, all is lost down there. It'll be okay here. And what would your sympathetic be? What would that?
So with the fight or flight is
Yeah.
that sense. I'm not sure I don't find words, but I find an
Yeah.
energy state. I find
Yeah.
just I find the energy that wants to come up, and
Yeah.
so maybe the word, if I follow that energy,
Yeah.
some of the words that come or that make my day, you know.
Ah, yes.
So that's, it
Yeah.
would be obviously for the fight
Yeah.
mode, but just it comes. It's interesting that it comes following the energy as opposed to looking for words per se.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's your nervous system. That's your body really showing you the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we get when we befriend the nervous system. It shows us the way rather than the brain trying to figure it out and come up with all this. When you follow the energy, when you follow your nervous system, then it takes you where you need to go. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that feels nice as a if possible conclusion, is that
Mhm.
sense of that what we've been talking about is that
Mhm.
sense of how the nervous system shows us the way
Yes.
of how we are. And so obviously sometimes it's not appropriate
Mhm.
to modern life, but at least if we know that, then we can do something about it.
Right. And you know, I think I might even say that you know it's not needed in this moment, but the nervous system hasn't quite caught up to some of the changes that may have happened in my life. So it's working on a past template. So,
Mhm.
you know, it may be that whatever's happening in this moment 10 years ago would have been a very dangerous thing for me, but in this moment now, it's not. So we're as we get to know our nervous system and befriend it, and it shows us the way, we also help it update and see the world that we're living in now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that latency effect of still reacting to the past and kind of giving it a chance to bring it to the moment.
Mm, it's a lovely way to put it. Bring it to the moment. Invite it into this moment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
So does it feel right to end here, or is there something you might want to add?
This has been a really lovely dance we did. It's been lovely to explore with you, to find words that really honor the nervous system in a way that feels um, in everyday language and feels like it felt very very alive. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Deb.
Mhm. Yeah. Mm.